Kleber to inbound. Kleber looking in for Irving. Irving for the win. Oh my! A southpaw finish from Kyrie Irving. Just absurd. Unforgettable ingenuity from Kyrie Irving. A left-handed floater for the win.
Hi, I'm Kyrie Irving, and you're listening to the Mavs Step Back Podcast.
How's it going, y'all? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I am rejoined by my co-host, Drew Johnson. You can find both of us on X, myself at Dalton_Trigg. You can find DJ at Coach Drew 33. This episode of Mavs Step Back is brought to you by Shantyman Premium Jerky. If you like premium jerky and you want to try out one of their many very good flavors, in my opinion, go to shantymanfoods.com and use our promo code MFFL to get 30% off your entire purchase. And again, I keep saying it when I do these ad reads, but you got to try the dill pickle flavor. I don't care if you're a dill pickle fan, or even if you're not a fan, but you're open to the idea of dill pickle, you got to try that, because that's the one that just completely blew me away and had me thinking like, okay, well, we gotta partner with these dudes somehow. So that was my thinking behind the doing the promo code for our listeners there. So anyway, DJ, the season is over. Mercifully, it finally ended for the Mavericks. Overall, it was not a good year. I mean, it was a good year if you were rooting for the high draft pick, but overall ended up being 26 and 56. Had a really strong chance of getting the number 6 best odds in the lottery, but kind of messed that up on the final day of the season. And it wasn't even like one of those situations where Cooper Flagg just went off. And, if Coop had gone for like 40 or 50 points in the season finale and the Mavs win, it would have been like, okay, well, we'll take whatever the consequences are. But Coop got hurt in that game. He sprained his ankle. He never returned. Ended up with like 10 points in that game, I think, by the time he went out. And then he just never came back. Mavs still end up just molly-whopping the Bulls, who were looked like they were tanking. Too, because Milwaukee was on their tails in the Tankathon standings. So it didn't end the way we hoped it would, because now the Mavs are in a tie with the Pelicans for the 7th best odds. That New Orleans pick will go to Atlanta no matter what. But now there's going to be a coin toss. So the Mavs could either have the 7th best odds, or they could end up in the 8th spot now. And it's not ideal by any means, but DJ, and I've told this to several people over the last week or so, this isn't a draft to where, especially when you already have Cooper Flagg on your roster, this isn't a draft to where you completely lose your mind by having a few spots lower in the draft lottery. Now, obviously, we want the best odds possible to jump up into the top 4 or to get the number 1 pick. But even if they were in that 6th spot, 6 through 8, I don't really, there's not many guys that I'm just like, oh, well, I'd rather have him over him for sure in that 6 to 8 range. Now, if they jump into the top spots, we can have a different discussion with that. But with how deep this draft class is, and given that the Mavs already have the main piece, which is the hardest thing to do, find the franchise guy and then build around him. I can't bring myself to be outraged about how things ended in that season finale. But that's just me. What are your thoughts on how the Mavs season ended?
Well, like you said, the most glaring bright spot of it all is Cooper Flagg. Now we just need to build around him. And I'm with you. I think that this draft is deep enough to where, you'd like to get as high of a pick as possible. But I'm not going to lie to you, man. And some of y'all may disagree with me. In fact, a lot of y'all will, because this sounds ridiculous. But I'm not sure that I'd want to pick one first in this draft. I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure that goes with that. Who do you pick? Do you pick Dibanza, who, at times has looked like a world beater and at times has, looked a little subpar? Do you pick Peterson, which, his love of the game was questioned, but I've kind of written that off after more recent information has become available with the total body cramps and stuff. But again, I mean, you just don't know how he's going to translate, and you don't know if that fear like associated with the body cramps is going to go away. So then let's go on down the list a little bit. Do you take,
Cam Boozer? Some people believe he might be the top player in this draft.
And, I think Boozer's probably a really safe pick from the perspective of offensive production and production on the glass. But where you're going to run into issues is defense. What does he guard, and how do you treat him in pick and roll situations, like defending pick and roll situations, which that's 90% of what NBA basketball offense is. So you have to answer those questions. Caleb
DJ, I have to say, and I mean, I know you've kind of come around on the idea of Cam Boozer or just him as a player in general as the college basketball season progressed. And obviously there's going to be questions about defense and all that stuff, but I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't a little bit intrigued by the front court potential of Coop at small forward, Cam Boozer at power forward, and Derek Lively at center.
Well, here's the issue you're going to run into that. Boozer kind of struggles against length and athleticism whenever he's on offense. And, we saw that in several games, most notably against Virginia, who had that 6'9" guy who swatted everything. And I've got news for him. There are much bigger, much better, much longer athletes in the NBA that he will see on a daily basis. And I wonder how he will adjust to that. I really do. And also, with this, I know we all don't want to look back fondly on the Luka trade, but whenever that happened, it sort of freed us to reinvent our identity. And I would like for our identity to be one that values defense just as much as offense. And I think you can do that with Cooper Flagg as your superstar. And I don't really want to spend, say we get a top 3 pick, God smiles on us, whatever. Say we get a top 3 pick. I don't want to use that on somebody that I'm going to have to hide on the defensive end, or that I'm going to have to make, accommodations for both offensively and defensively. Yeah. So that's why I think, and I've been saying this all year and I will continue to say it, I think the safest pick, if we have the chance, is Kingston Flemings. I really do. There really just isn't anything I don't like about the kid.
And just to play devil's advocate here, which I guess it only applies if we're just strictly talking about the front court and not taking into consideration what the potential back court could be for next year. But just playing devil's advocate here, you say they're in a position to take Cam Boozer, and they take him. And I agree, although I agree that he might struggle against the length and athleticism that the NBA has on a nightly basis. I think he would benefit from not being the guy, because that's going to be Coop. All the attention, he is the guy. He's the franchise guy. All eyes are going to be on him. So Cam Boozer is going to go from being, top player on his team to just being like a super high-end role player or co-star. He might morph into a co-star eventually, but at the beginning, he would just be like a super role player. And, I feel like he would, probably do pretty well in that role. But you're right to bring up the defensive concerns, especially since we don't know like how the backcourt is going to look going into next season. You're going to have Kyrie. What Kyrie brings you offensively. He will be fully healthy, but he's also in his mid-30s and he's coming off an ACL injury too. So even if he gets back to that type of even like 80% of what his offensive ceiling is, what's he going to look like on defense? I think you gotta have at least 4 of your 5 starters or 4 of your 5 players on the court be plus defenders in today's NBA. And I don't know what Kyrie's going to like. He always gives pretty decent effort on defense, but he's just a smaller guard. So, I mean, there's only so much he can do. But we don't know what he's going to look like on the defensive end coming back from this injury. So just assuming that Kyrie is the weak link defensively going into next year, that would make you, and at least by how you're thinking about Boozer, that would kind of make you shy away from picking him in that spot. Which leads me to the next question. Like, who is the best fit for the Mavs, not just in that top 4 spot, but if they don't move into the top 4 and they stay in that 6 to 8 range? Like, that's a tough question for me, because I look at the top guys. If I had the number 1 pick, DJ, and I think I've kind of waffled on this for the last couple months, but given what we know more about Darren Peterson now, I'd take Darren Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
If I had the number 1 pick, that's who I'm going with. And I know there are still questions about him. I think he is going to be outstanding on both sides of the floor. I think you definitely, especially you pair Darren Peterson, you put him at the 2 next to Kyrie Irving, and then you have Cooper Flagg and Derek Lively and whoever they end up, maybe they keep PJ Washington this summer. We'll see. That's solid. That's gonna get you into the playoffs, in my opinion. So if we get into that top part of the draft, or say they luck up and get the number 1 pick for the second time in 2 years, or even the number 2 pick, and whoever gets the first pick goes with Dibansa, that's who I would go with, is Darren Peterson. That's my top guy. But if we get down into that 6 to 8 range, then there's a tough conversation to be had, at least for me personally. I don't know who I want, DJ. I don't know. I don't think Kingston Flemings is going to fall that far.
He's not.
He's not going to be
a top 4 guy. I think.
I mean, he's not going to be in that 6 to 8 range.
But I do think that Keaton Bagler will. And I have to say, after watching him in the tournament, he can go. He can play.
He's
6'6" guard. He can play, and he can play both the 1 and the 2, and that may be what we need right now. I think he's got an incredibly high ceiling. Yeah, I mean, he'd be a great consolation prize for sure.
Yeah, he's like a Swiss Army knife. He gives you a little bit of everything. Big guard, like you said, he can play point guard or shooting guard, and just does a little bit of everything. And I think that would help out a lot. Now, Darius Acuff Jr. is going to maybe be I don't know. There's been some rumbles about the Sacramento Kings, really liking him, and they're probably going to be picking ahead of where the Mavs are. So we'll see how it goes. I say Kingston Flemings isn't going to fall into that range, but we see surprising stuff happen all the time. In the NBA draft that can make people fall. So, we'll see how it goes. But I'm looking at, let me see here. Okay, so Darius, so I'm just going by this Tankathon draft lottery here, or this mock draft. So don't take it for, it being the Bible or anything. But so far, they've got, in the 6 through 8 range, they've got Keaton Wagler going 6. Then you've got Darius Acuff Jr. going 7th. They've got Braden Berries going 8th to the Mavs. Like, say the Mavs they lose the coin toss and they stay at 8th. They've got Braden Berries going there from Arizona, which, I think that would be a decent pick. He's not my favorite of the guards, but it would be fine. But like I said, there's surprises, and we could potentially see some guys go, like, say the Kings take Acuff at 5th, and then, people still say Wagler goes 6th, and then all of a sudden, Caleb Wilson goes in the top 4, and then now you have a situation where Kingston Flemings has fallen to 7th.
That would be great. I don't see it happening. I really don't. I think that the battle between 4 and 5 is between Flemings and Wilson. I really do. And I think that largely depends on who gets that pick and what their actual roster needs are. Do they need a point guard or do they need a forward? So to me, outside of Darren Peterson, Flemings is the best guard in this draft.
Yeah.
And I think that he's definitely the best point guard.
This is a good time, in my opinion. I think we're gonna go to the screen share here and do our one draft lottery simulation and just see what our luck looks like today, DJ. Let's bring up the Tankathon simulator here and see what happens. So, okay, Dallas, again, it's going to be a coin toss. So, like right now, they've got them slotted in the 8th spot, but they still got to do the coin toss. So we don't know if they're going to be 7th or 8th. Right now, they're sitting in the 8th spot. So, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, in that 8th spot, they would have a 29% chance of jumping into the top 4. They would have a 6.7% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, which is significantly better of a chance than what they had last year. Ended up with Cooper Flagg. It was 1.8%. So we're going to hit the lottery sim and see what happens here. It's being very slow. Look at there. Moved up to 3rd, DJ. Look at that. What do you think about that? Oh, it's on mute. I think you muted it.
Yeah, I've got screaming kids. I hope so. That would be hilarious to get the number 3 pick. We'd have some real thoughts about it. Unfortunately, that puts us right in the range of Cam Boozer, and I will be really pissed off if we take Cam Boozer.
Yeah, I know how strongly you feel about Kingston Fleming. So if we ended up with that 3rd pick and it comes down to Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, or Kingston Flemings, and they go with Wilson or Boozer, you're going to be quite upset.
We need a guard. I mean, that's the big thing is we need a guard for the future. We have our forward. We don't need another one.
Whoever is watching on YouTube right now, this is hilarious. DJ is just getting absolutely mauled by his children. This is so funny.
Got a lot of help here.
This is incredible. Get him, Zoe.
Get here.
Yeah, get. Well, anyway, that was a very good spin. The last time, DJ, you weren't on here. Last time I did the lottery spin, it was the first one I've done, and that's all I do. I do one spin each time, and that's it. And we ended up dropping down to 9th, so that wasn't fun.
Not good.
So that was a lot better. Okay, so we're gonna move into this last little topic here, and then we'll head off. But I wanted to talk to you about the Rookie of the Year race because I've given my rants about it over the last couple weeks. Everybody knows how I feel about it. Obviously, I'm a little biased because Coop's our guy, but I think even if you take off your Mavs hat and you look at it just from a numbers perspective, from a full team context perspective, you can see why he is clearly the Rookie of the Year. All in all, when the dust settles, none of this really matters. The Rookie of the Year stuff. It's just an award that, there's really no significant meaning to it aside from just the player who gets it goes down in history with all the other guys that won Rookie of the Year. But you look at it. I mean, Cooper Flagg, 21 points per game as a rookie, 6.7 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shot 46.8% from the field, shot 29.5% from 3, which isn't great, but if you remember how he started out shooting the 3 ball this year, nearly 30% is pretty good based on how he was doing, earlier in the season. So, and then you have the blocks and the steals and the impact he has on the defensive end. I don't see how. And look, I know anything past regular season basketball should not be, an indictment on anybody for any regular season awards. But we saw the perfect example of why Cooper Flagg means more to this Mavs team than Con Knipple means to the Charlotte Hornets based on how he performed in that play-in game for the Hornets the other night. The Hornets barely won in overtime, and but still they ended up winning against the Miami Heat. And Knipple had 0. He put up a goose egg on the board. All right, so DJ, I know you're in the middle of a current crisis here, so we're gonna wrap this thing up the best way we know how. But DJ, the Rookie of the Year race, how do you see? I mean, how do you see it ending? And do you think it'll be a just ending for the Rookie of the Year race?
I think it's only just if it's Cooper Flagg, just because if we're really talking about the most valuable rookie and who's most valuable to their team, the Mavericks cannot win without Flagg, whereas the Hornets can win without Knipple. And we've seen examples of both of those things. Flagg has had some phenomenal outings. He's set the single game record for a teenager. I mean, what more do you want? What more do you want? Rookie of the Year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen those care packages that the Mavs have sent out to several media members and Mavs Twitter people and all that kind of stuff. And one of the coolest parts of that care package, from what I've seen, I saw our guy Jimmy at All Things Mavs. He posted a picture of just the receipt. Like they gave the receipt of Coop's rookie year. It's like it was like out of the screen, like so long, like all the stuff that he had accomplished. That was a pretty cool little thing for me. So I'm with you. I think it's got to be Coop if it's going to be the right choice. I mean, I get the hype for Knipple, but I mean, people don't just need to look at that last game that Knipple had in the play-in. That's not part of the regular season. You take the last month of the regular season, Knipple wasn't nearly as good as what he was in the earlier parts of the season, at least compared to Flagg, where Flagg has just turned it up this entire calendar year. So I'm with you. I think that's how it needs to be. Cooper Flagg, Rookie of the Year. We'll see how it goes. Judging by that Google Docs where all the media people put their votes in there, it seems like it's neck and neck right now. So we'll see how it goes. They just sent out the ballots. We'll see if people are swayed by that last playing game or not. But guys, that's going to do it for another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. Be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. And if you don't mind taking a few seconds to leave us a review on Apple and Spotify, that really helps us out as well. And then also go get you some beef jerky. Again, this episode is brought to you by Shantyman Premium Jerky. Go to shantymanfoods.com and use our promo code MFFL to get 30% off your entire purchase. Guys, y'all have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time.